I never imagined I'd end up on the wrong side of an HOA dictator, but life loves to surprise you with unexpected twists. My name is Jordan, and this is the incredible tale of how my neighbor Karen, who crowned herself HOA president, chose my front door as the ideal spot to park her bicycle, and how it eventually brought about her own undoing. It was a Tuesday morning, and I was already behind schedule for a crucial work meeting. I snatched my laptop bag, keys, and coffee, prepared to rush out the door, only to discover I couldn't swing it open more than a couple of inches. Something was obstructing it from the outside. I shoved harder, assuming the door had swollen or jammed, but it refused to move. Annoyed, I wedged my head through the small gap to investigate the blockage. What I saw forced me to blink twice, convinced I must be seeing things. A weathered pink bicycle was locked not only to the railing on my front stoop, but straight to my doorknob. The thick chain was looped around both, rendering it impossible to open the door fully. As I stood there, stunned, I spotted a woman on the sidewalk, arms folded across her chest, observing me with an expression of pure, smug triumph. "Excuse me," I said politely, even as my frustration built. "Is this your bike? I can't leave my house." The woman strolled over, her stance oozing privilege. She appeared to be in her late 40s, sporting a blonde bob haircut that practically announced, "I'd like to speak to the manager." Designer sunglasses sat atop her head, pointless on such an overcast day. "Yes, that's my bike," she answered, her voice suggesting that I was the one imposing on her time. I had nowhere else to park it. I pointed toward the vacant bike rack merely 20 feet away in our townhouse community's shared space. "There's an actual bike rack right over there." She brushed it off with a wave of her hand. "Those are always occupied." They weren't. From my limited view through the door, the rack was entirely empty. "Look," I said, striving to stay composed. "I have to get to work. Could you please unlock your bike so I can go?" She cocked her head and offered a patronizing smile. "This space is communal property. I have full rights to use it. This is my front door." Terrified, feeling as though I was reasoning with a stubborn child. "Not a bike rack." "Well, I don't see any signs prohibiting parking here," she shot back. My tolerance was fading fast. "If you don't move it, I'll need to involve the police." That's when she smirked that infuriating, superior grin that revealed she thought she controlled the situation completely. "Go ahead," she replied, with a casual flick of her wrist. "I am the HOA." She pronounced those initials as if they granted her absolute authority. Then she spun on her heel and departed, stranding me inside my own home, compelling me to scramble out my back window to reach my meeting. Little did I realize that this was merely the start of my ordeal with Karen, the HOA president from hell. I'd been leasing my townhouse for roughly 6 months and had successfully avoided the notice of our community Homeowners Association. I maintained my lawn neatly, kept my garbage bins out of sight, and typically stayed out of everyone's affairs. I'd caught whispers about the new HOA president, tales of her leaving snide, indirect notes on residents' doors for trivial violations like displaying a welcome mat in an unapproved shade or keeping holiday lights up a single day beyond the official takedown deadline. But I never expected to fall victim to her trivial displays of authority. That evening, after hoisting myself back through the window, a mortifying feat for a 35-year-old professional, grabbed a notepad and drafted what I believed was a fair request. "Please remove your bicycle from my door. This creates a safety hazard and blocks my primary entrance." "Thank you." I slipped the note into the bike's basket and headed to bed, figuring any sensible person would acknowledge the mistake and fix it. The following morning proved just how mistaken I was. The bike remained exactly where it was, and my note lay crumpled on my welcome mat. Opting for a more straightforward tactic, I clambered out the back window once more and circled around to Karen's unit, located just 3 doors away from mine. I knocked courteously and waited. When she answered, her face tightened instantly upon recognizing me. "Yes," she snapped, her tone laced with annoyance. "Hi, I'm Jordan from 3 doors down. I left a note requesting that you please remove your bicycle from my front door. It's still obstructing my entrance, and I truly need access to my front door." She leaned against her doorframe, That entryway is technically communal property, she declared, as if quoting from some unseen manual. Your lease grants you rights only to the interior of the unit. The exterior, including the stoop, is under the HOA, but it's stopping me from entering or exiting my home, I noted, still attempting to reach whatever logic she possessed, which I was rapidly concluding was absent. You have a back door, don't you? She countered with an arched eyebrow. Yes, but then use that. She began shutting her door, but I raised my hand to pause her, without making contact, simply indicating I had more to say. Look, I don't want to escalate this unnecessarily, but blocking a doorway constitutes a fire hazard. It's actually against the law. She straightened to her full stature, still roughly 5 inches shorter than me. Are you threatening me? She demanded, her pitch climbing higher. No, I'm simply pointing out a fact, I responded evenly. I'd appreciate it if you'd relocate your bike to the proper rack. If you touch my property, she warned, pointing sharply at me, I will fine you for tampering with HOA-approved installations. That's a $500 violation, and with that, she slammed her door shut, leaving me gaping in astonishment. Was this truly occurring? Could she legitimately penalize me for freeing my own block door? I wasn't certain, but I hesitated to chance it. I resolved to wait one additional day before taking further action. For 2 more days, I had no choice but to access my home via the back window, scrambling over my kitchen counter like an inept burglar in my own place. Co-workers began commenting on my progressively disheveled look at the office, and admitting that I was window climbing due to a middle-aged woman's bike chained to my front door felt far too ridiculous to confess. On the 3rd day, my limit was reached. Returning from work to see the pink eyesore still secured to my door, I dialed the non-emergency police number. The dispatcher promised to dispatch an officer to mediate the conflict. As I waited, I relaxed on my back patio, savoring the minor delight of picturing Karen's reaction when faced with real law enforcement. Roughly 20 minutes later, heard voices raised out front. I rounded the corner to see 2 police officers at my door, inspecting the bicycle setup, while Karen flailed her arms dramatically and spoke over them. This is HOA business, she declared loudly, as I drew nearer. You have no authority here. This is private property regulated by our bylaws. The officers, a man and a woman who both appeared to have handled plenty of local squabbles before, kept their composure steady, even as Karen's voice grew more aggressive. Ma'am, the female officer responded firmly, no matter what HOA rules might say, obstructing someone's entrance violates city safety codes. Do you have any idea who I am? Karen snapped, her cheeks turning bright red. I am the president of the Homeowners Association. I determine what's permitted and what isn't. The male officer looked over at me. Sir, is this your home? Before I could reply, Karen cut in sharply. He's only a renter. He doesn't enjoy the same privileges as homeowners. He's been interfering with HOA property, and I'm going to fine him for it. That's when things took a surprising twist. Karen abruptly stormed toward her own unit, coming back shortly afterward, declutching a pair of bolt cutters. The officers and I stared in confusion as she strode past us straight to my mailbox. If he believes he can report me for placing my property where I choose, she raged, clamping the bolt cutters around the post holding my mailbox. Then let's see how he feels when I eliminate his unapproved mailbox instead. This design was never cleared by the Architectural Review Committee. The female officer moved forward quickly. Ma'am, I need you to set that tool down immediately. Interfering with mailboxes is a federal crime. Karen paused, the bolt cutter still gripped in her hands. This is HOA property, she maintained, though her tone wavered slightly. Now, actually, the male officer noted, I'm going to require proof of your position as HOA president. Karen's face changed from furious certainty to evident alarm. I have the documents inside. I'm the president. Everybody knows it. Right then, another resident, an older gentleman named Mr. Chan, who resided across the courtyard, walked up to the unfolding scene. Officers, he said courteously, I've been here for 15 years and was on the prior board. There hasn't been a proper HOA meeting or election in more than 6 months. The previous board disbanded when the former president relocated. Nobody voted Karen into any role. Karen's complexion drained from flushed to pale. That's not true. I've been gathering dues and upholding the rules for months. Gathering dues? Mr. Chan lifted his eyebrows. Without an active board or official account, where exactly has that money gone? The officers shared a look that indicated the matter had grown far more serious than a mere bike disagreement. The female officer addressed Karen again. Ma'am, I'm asking you once more to unlock your bicycle from this man's door, or we'll handle it ourselves. Karen gripped the bolt cutters even harder. I refuse. This is my property, and I have full rights. Actually, the male officer added, you're presently breaking City Ordinance Section 212.5 on blocking entryways and possibly committing fraud by misrepresenting authority and collecting funds. If the neighbor's information was correct, what followed was both astonishing and utterly fitting. Karen lifted the bolt cutters high above her head and yelled, none of you appreciate how much effort I put into keeping this community together. Without me, everything here would collapse. The officers reacted swiftly. The female officer seized the bolt cutters as her colleague carefully, but decisively placed Karen's hands behind her back. Ma'am, you're under arrest for obstruction and disorderly conduct, he stated evenly, while cuffing her. You have the right to remain silent, as he recited the full Miranda rights. Karen started yelling about her property rights, vowing to appeal this to the Supreme Court and insisting on recording all badge numbers. The female officer called for their own cutters to free the bike, and soon enough, my entrance was unobstructed at last. Karen was led to the patrol car, still raving about persecution and warning that we'd all live to regret challenging her. As the vehicle pulled away, the residents began stepping out of their homes. Attracted by the noise, Mr. Chan filled everyone in on the events, and an unexpected number of people shared their own encounters with Karen. It emerged that she'd been intimidating the community for months, pretending to hold power she lacked, issuing fines that carried no real weight, and indeed, securing her bike to various porches around the complex whenever it suited her. She justified it with vague references to community access policies that, as we now understood, were entirely fabricated. Within a week, the residents held a proper HOA meeting. A legitimate new board was chosen, with Mr. Chan elected president, and their first unanimous decision was to permanently bar Karen from any future role in the association. Regarding Karen's legal issues, they proved far graver than anticipated. The improper collection of fines and dues led to fraud charges, and along with the disorderly conduct and resisting arrest, she faced possible incarceration and substantial legitimate penalties. When the judge delivered her sentence, 6 months of probation, 200 hours of community service, and repayment to all those she'd wrongly billed, her expression twisted in disbelief and fury. But I was only trying to protect property values, she cried out, as her lawyer frantically attempted to quiet her. The judge immediately added a contempt of court charge, imposing an extra $1,000 fine. Karen's jaw dropped in utter shock.